I'm Tamika Leon. I'm a goal success coach for high achieving women, and I am still very full time in the corporate world. So I understand both aspects of, working full time and having your own business. Now, I created this panel series as a space for high achieving women to have honest, actionable conversations about creating success without burning out. Today's topic is energetic burnout, how your human design shapes how you get exhausted. Now, for me, this is a new topic. It's something I've heard about, but haven't really had a chance to dig into. So I'm super excited about this. And I'm really excited to welcome these two incredible panelists who bring a wealth of experience, insight, and real life strategies to this exciting conversation. Now, let's get started. So, I'd like to begin by having each of our panelists briefly introduce themselves. So, Kim, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Romaine. I'm a life and business alchemist. I work with individuals and organizations creating social impact in the world. And I do that through the lens of collective liberation through personal liberation. I use tools like human design, astrology, somatics, as well as very grounded and material based strategy. There we go. Strategies. I like strategy today. um, Strategies and methodologies to help us decondition and learn how to come back to ourselves, our wisdom, so we can create the impact we're here to make in a way that is much more aligned and humanistic and focused on our own individual and shared humanity. Thanks for having me back, Tamika. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming back, Kim. Hey, Laura?
Love that. Hello, everybody. I am Laura West, and I am the CEO and a business alchemy coach of the Center for Joyful Business. So I've been coaching for about 25 years now, and I bring in my own mix, as Kim was talking about. We each have our kind of similarities and differences. I bring in quantum human design, Akashic records, EFT tapping, trauma informed coaching, coactive coaching to really help leaders, conscious entrepreneurs realize what their limits are, what their self limiting beliefs are, their limiting stories that may be old conditioned stories that no longer work for them to really step into their potential. And yeah, and I'm really excited. I'm the author of a brand new book called Scripting Your Success Magic Journal, which is all about writing the story, right? Writing the new story where you already are successful and in your highest potential.
I love that. And I have to check out that book. I didn't see that, so I'm definitely going to have to check that one out.
Thanks.
Okay, so for those of us who are still new to human design, how would you explain it in a simple, non-technical, I can't really say non-scientific, but I guess in a way I can say non-scientific way?
You want to take this one, Laura?
Sure. I look at human design, and in particular, I'm really passionate about quantum human design. But human design is to me, it's a map of your energetic blueprint. Like, how you were when you were born into this world, how you were meant to create, to work, to lead, to rest, and yeah, and so it's this energetic blueprint that helps you better understand yourself. So then you can realize what your own authentic design is. And I think we talk a lot about being authentic, but to me, it feels like human design is like that missing puzzle piece of like, oh, this is what actually authenticity looks like for me. And I'll let you add to it, Kim.
There's very little that I would add because those are almost exactly the words I would use. Because I always say energetic blueprint, because that's how I see it. I look at it as a blueprint of our energy. It gives us a tremendous amount of information about ourselves. And the way that I particularly love working with it is with individuals, but also with groups. And with entities. So I also take energetic readings of businesses. So if you're a solopreneur, it's yourself and your business because everything has an energetic blueprint and seeing how those work together in addition to the energy that's transiting. So I look a lot at the transits that happen both astrologically and through the human design lens to understand that energetic blueprint and how it is impacted by the environments and individuals that we're with.
That's interesting. I never thought of a business having an energetic blueprint. I always just
Yes.
think of people, but that makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, businesses are run by people, so
And I think, we put energy into our businesses and
Mhm.
into projects. And
mhm.
like my book, I feel like each of them has their own soul. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I use quantum human design, Akashic records to really do that same thing. And it's amazing what your business wants to tell you, or what a project wants to tell you, where it wants to expand or contract. Anyways, I know we could all go
I was going to say,
way
this
into
is a whole nother panel
that.
discussion.
That is that yeah, that raises so many questions. We might table that one for another one. So turning the lens to stress and burnout and self-care, what first drew you personally to human design or energetic mapping as a tool for understanding your stress or how you get burnt out?
Well, for me, it was actually feeling it,
Mm,
right? And understanding that I was feeling it differently in different parts of my body. And so I came to it really through a somatic lens, through understanding what was happening to me somatically, um, loosely understanding astrology, and then somebody saying, "Okay, so if you like these two things, have you heard of?"
mhm,
And I took a look the first time I saw my my body graph, the map, the energetic map that you actually can see. Um, the first time I saw it, I went, "Oh, that's why I feel what I feel where I feel it." It suddenly made sense to me, and I didn't have any language around human design other than a map, and what I was experiencing in my own body. And so that it really was through that lens of I somatically felt something, and somebody said, "There's a way that you can actually see it," and I was like, "Yes." So that
hmm,
was my entree.
I had a little different experience. I discovered human design probably about almost 15 years ago, and I
Okay.
remember, and I love assessments, and I felt like you can always glean a little bit of something from it, right? And I didn't like it. I was like, I don't like this type. Projector. I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like the design of the blueprint that you get. Looked very um, mechanical to me, and I was like, what is this? It's too many numbers, and so I pushed it away. And then about 3 or 4 years, well, I guess about 5 years ago, I started. Came back to it with quantum human design, and then I looked at my map again and realized I was. This is just like the last 2 years that I've gone through my third burnout period,
Mm.
and in my career, and I was like, something has to change. And then I really dove deeply into my particular type and realized, oh, this makes so much sense. It was like I was ready for it, right? And it just made so much sense for validating, like, oh, I'm not different, I'm not weird, but wow, do I need to manage my energy so much differently?
Yep. Yep.
that makes so much sense. And it's funny because as you said that, I thought about just before we went live, we were looking at my chart, and I'll share that just so I can show what a chart looks like. But what we were talking about is how I process information. And for some reason I wasn't like I understood it, but it brought something else to light for me because recently I realized I like looking at data and doing like different charts and then using that information to make process improvements. But now it makes sense
Hmm.
because that gives me that space to say, okay, this is the data, and then I take the time to look at that, and then I can make a decision. But before that, I would just look at everything and try to do all of the things without taking the time that I needed, which is showing up in my chart.
Sure, because that's the systems have trained us to do.
That is okay. That makes so much sense because I'm like, why am I like this? Why do I like doing that but not this? That makes sense now.
Yes. And we're so conditioned that everything has to be fast. We have to come together in a meeting and come together, and it's like process the information, make a decision fast. some people are naturally wired for that. Others, like I'm not wired for that. I like to have my own little, let me go away, let me look at it, and then I feel that energy alignment, and it's like there's no stopping me then.
Mhm.
But it's like
Yeah.
until that energy alignment's there, yeah, and it's all
And
in
it
your
is
chart.
interesting because I am so sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say as a manifesting generator, I am designed to go fast, cut corners, move quickly.
Yeah.
And when I learned about my own burnout and what was affecting it, because I have an open head and an open root, and having that sandwich feeling of I need to do it on somebody else's timeline,
Yes.
leaning into that sense, and that's more technical than we need to be, but leaning into that sense of saying, oh, I need time to be with the stuff, do the things, step away, come back in, and then I move fast. Because if I don't
Mhm.
allow time for my emotional wave, if I don't allow time for me to find my own right timing, and I feel that external pressure, then I'm making misaligned decisions and I'm burning myself out because I'm saying yes to a misaligned yes.
See,
Yeah.
these are the insights that you get when you learn about these things
Mhm.
or when you work with people
Mhm.
who know about these things. Okay, so
And I think it's, I love that we're talking about energetics, right? Because it's the part that so often, I mean, we're not trained on this, right? We didn't learn it growing up. We didn't learn it. It doesn't matter how educated you are in college, you probably didn't learn about managing your energy and your blueprint for how you're wired, that we're different. So I think this is really important work.
It's very
yeah,
important work. I would agree. Yep.
yeah. So, okay, Kim, I think you mentioned that you're a manifesting generator. So, at
Mhm.
a high level, can you explain what the different types are? And then once we do that, then I'd like to go into like how each one uses and replenishes energy.
Sure. So there's 5 types. So there's, and I'm going to use the non-quantum human design. So if you want to jump in with those other names, feel free, Laura, because I don't know
I'm
them
good.
off the top of my head. But we have a manifester, and those manifestors are really the initiators. And I think that might actually be the name in quantum. So those are the individuals that are initiating things. You have the generators; those are the individuals that have the doing energy, right? You have the manifesting generators. So now you have a hybrid type that I will die on this hill that we are not a hybrid type. We are a type of our own. and and that does include some manifestor energy and generator energy. And learning to balance those two is a whole thing in and of itself. We have lovely, beautiful projectors like Laura, and projectors are really the guides. I feel the energy of projectors as that hand on the small of our backs, while also kind of being in front of us and leading us, but we're not aware that they're doing it. And then we have the reflectors, and reflectors are individuals who have centers that every center is open. None of them, they don't have consistent energy. And so waiting 28 days, waiting a lunar cycle to go through to have the ability to make a decision is really important. So they're not going to go away from a meeting and be able to have a half an hour and then come back with a decision. They actually need time to deeply process that. So, anything to add there, Laura? That was just super high level.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great high level. I would say the same thing. So, yeah. And then, where I would say, because we've talked about human design, quantum human design. Human design is the basic, design that we're born with, right? And then human design is as you move through your conditioning, your stories, you go to this quantum possibility place, in your potential. I don't want to bring in too many different names to confuse all of us because I know we
Right.
want to keep it simple. Because even just looking at that chart, I'm like, wow, that's a lot, But knowing the essence of that gets you started and starting to create an awareness about your energy and the different types. So, yeah.
Yeah, that as you were going through them, I started thinking about different people that I know. And I think as a generator, I'm somebody like I have the energy. Once I decide what I'm going to do, I have the energy. But then I notice other people that I work with where it's like, you know what you want to do. How come you're not doing it? And for me, it's like there's always that push that I have. I'm like, you already have your answer. Just do it. What's the problem? But it's making me think, okay, you know what? Maybe they're just not that type that has that energy. Maybe I just need to give them more time, even though they said that they know, they still need more time.
Hmm.
So it's something to consider when you're working with other people, noticing how they work and taking the time to respect that when you have that time, because when you're working full time, you don't always have that time.
Mhm,
Yeah. And sometimes you have, or for each of the five types, you have different strategies,
mhm,
right? That just knowing the strategy, the basic strategy of your type can really help a lot. Um, so with manifestors, they're meant to, because they are these initiators, these catalysts, and they see these ideas that maybe nobody else has seen. They're really the visionary pioneers. They need to let people know, like inform people, and then they still go do their thing. But I used to be married to a manifestor, and it'd be like, where did he go and what is he doing? And it was like, what? But once I knew, it's like, oh, okay, you go do your thing. Generators, they need to wait for that, wait for something to respond to. And so generators want to go, go, go. And, there's a vast majority, like 35%, I think it is, of the population is generator. And, but they also need to wait for something to respond to that says, oh, I'm in alignment with this,
right.
right? I'm really in alignment. And then the manifesting generator brings that together with, you can speak the best to that, Kim, because that's your type, but it's um, where they need to inform, but then they also need to wait for that, what is it that has them be in alignment? Right. And manifesting generators can zigzag their way to that instead of more the master builder like a generator. And then for projectors, we have a couple different strategies, but like my main, one that's really probably the bigger one for projectors is to use your voice as a sounding board and to be able to talk your way into what it is that you need. And so as I look back, like when I was in corporate, now I realize like I had certain people that I would walk the floor and I'd go see them and then I'd talk through my project with, right? And so that's incredibly important. And then for our reflectors, which are only about 1% of the population, they need to be in the right environments with the right people, right? And
Mhm.
they need to really look at that kind of look at that.
Yeah.
So there's so much more we could go into, but
There's and I just is it okay, Tamika, if I just kind
yeah,
of take the flip to that?
Oh
Because
yeah.
when you're not in alignment, I think is as equally as important as knowing what
Hmm.
yes,
strategy to take.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, for generators, it is frustration. For manifestors, it's anger. So if you're feeling angry, um, as a manifester, it's that's telling you that you're misaligned. For manifesting generator, it's both frustration and anger. So yay us.
double whammy.
Yeah. For projectors, and I love this word because if you use this with any other type, it doesn't land, but you're talking with a projector when you say it's bitterness because it there is that quality is my understanding, is that you're not in alignment when you feel
Yeah, we
bitter.
hate the word, and yet we still get it.
100%. Yeah, I
Whether
keep
it's bitterness to others or bitterness to ourselves.
exactly, exactly. And then reflect. I just lost reflector.
Reflector disappointment.
Disappointment. Thank you. I'm like, where did that one go?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So again, it's that feeling of deep and working with reflector. It is that deep disappointment. And again, it's to disappointment of self and of like disappointing others. It just feels deeply disappointing. So you're misaligned based on your type if you're experiencing that emotion. And it is really helpful to then be a catalyst to bring you back into
Yeah.
alignment.
Yes. Yeah. That's been really huge. I know my clients now, they're just like, and I was really frustrated. They're manifestor or
Mhm.
manifesting generator, and they're like, oh, wow, that's a clue. Like, it's a clue to follow. And when they follow that, it's like, oh, it's telling them that they're not in alignment or they're trying to go too fast or they're getting the pressure of, I need to find the answer now, now, now. And maybe it's not now, now, now.
Right.
Hmm. So many things, so many thoughts. Like I said, this is for me because it's so new. I'm just like everything that you guys are saying, I'm looking at me and I'm looking at all of the people that I'm closest to, and
Mhm.
it's so eye-opening.
Yeah.
And it's like you were saying with your clients, they're recognizing the signs of, okay, I'm not in alignment. It's like right now, well, for the past few months now, I've been working with a nutritionist, and I can now recognize, like she was saying at the very beginning, different types of hunger. And it's like, because I've been working with her for so long, it's automatic. I recognize it now.
Mhm.
So as you work with your, human design, as you
Mhm.
understand it, it'll be easier to recognize when when those signs show up. It's like, oh wait, I'm not aligned, I need to step back, and this is how I can get back into alignment.
Right.
Yes.
So I love that. And yes, the frustration is real.
Totally. It is no, and let me tell you, when that partners with anger, Jesus.
I can imagine. Yeah, the frustration can be very, very
It's
real.
very real. Mm.
Yeah, so this is this it brings me to my next question, and it's kind of like when I talk about cycle-based planning. For me, that's a huge thing, understanding where I'm at in my cycle, which helps me understand why my energy levels are where they're at, why maybe I need a little bit more time to do something. So it's understanding who you are and where you're at so that you stop comparing yourself to other people and what you're able to do versus what you see somebody else being able to do. So, what are like just what are some tips or some tricks that people can use to kind of shift that perspective? Like if they're looking at one person who may be a completely different design than them, instead of saying, "How come I can't do it, the way that they're doing it?" What is something that they can say to themselves or look at to understand what would work better for them?
Mhm. I think that's such an important question because I know that's one of the big things that for me, I've worked with just so many coaches over the years who, we didn't have this information necessarily, or it wasn't as popular back then, 20 years ago. And I kept asking, like, why can't I do it? I'm supposed to replicate the system of my coach or who my trainer is. And what's wrong with me? I was holding that for about 10 years. Like, what's wrong with me that I'm not doing it that way? Right. And the human design has just really freed that up so that you don't have to compare as much, or you can be like, oh, yeah, I know what she's about. That's why she's doing it that way and I'm doing it this way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think understanding whatever aspect of human design you are most drawn to. So, type and strategy is one aspect, and it's a pretty big one, but it doesn't always work, right? Sometimes, like I said, for me when I saw the blueprint, it was like, ooh, because I'm visual in that way and understanding, just kind of looking at how my energy flows. Um, we don't yet live in a world where people are like, let's exchange human design like we used to exchange business cards. Although in my world, we totally do.
I was going to say, in your world,
Right?
that's what we did as soon as we got on the call.
Exactly. And when we have that information, it does give us the information that allows us to be more human and more authentic with ourselves, but also with other people, because now we can see them in a way that we haven't seen them before, and not in a judging or pigeonholing type of way, but of saying, oh, I get it. Your energy flows so differently than mine. And it maybe allows a little bit more curiosity. It maybe allows a little bit more patience. I know for me, when I started looking, 'cause at first I was like, I don't want to look at my families. I don't want to, like, unless they ask me, this is not my business. And then once I started looking at it, I was like, oh, I'm really glad I did, because now this makes so much more sense to me. And then when I show them mine, they're like, that I can't even look at that thing. That's way too much energy. I'm like, right, because I am surrounded by projectors. So,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
surrounded by generators in my family, or manifesting generators. And so it's like, oh, that explains my dad. And then my mom is the same. As my mom's already passed, but I looked at her chart and I just cried. I was like, oh, she's projector. I can now feel what she went through.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really helpful with your kids, with your spouse, to be able to understand like why they are so fast, or why they're pressuring things, or why they need space, or all of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And likewise, right, with our team members, with our boss, with those that report to us, with our partners, partnerships in business,
Yeah.
collaborators, any way of looking at relationship, it becomes it allows us to, again, I'll just say the same thing I said before, it allows us to be more authentically ourselves and allows space for the other person to do the same.
Yeah. You can have so much more compassion, right?
Mhm.
Compassion and patience, as you said.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like for I think there was a point at work where we were looking at DISC and understanding what other like learning what each one stood for. It's like I was able to understand who the
Right.
other people were on the teams that I was working on. So I could see that it would be the same thing with human design. Granted, I feel like people would probably feel like it's a little bit more invasive if
Human
you're asking
design.
for their human design information, like in a work setting.
So in a work setting, and Laura, you may have some insight on this as well. What I have found is I don't actually share the charts with the team.
Okay.
Is I'm the only one that holds all of that information. What I do share with the team are energetic profiling of the team,
Hmm.
and then showing how the energy is different for each individual on the team. It's nobody else's business unless you feel
Right.
like sharing it, all the other details of your chart. But I find it to be even more so somebody who I've done a lot of different assessments and utilize a lot of different assessments that I actually layer into each other when I work with groups and individuals. It is things like DISC and even the Enneagram and
Mhm.
MBTI and all those others, those can shift during our lifetime. And actually, what I have found in my research is that those all point actually to our conditioning because they point to where we have created ways to show up in the world that often show us where our shadows are, show us where we feel more challenged in our lives. And so we create these systems and ways of being, and that shows up in DISC, MBTI, Enneagram, and many, many others. Um, Whereas if we look at our human design, that other than how we're impacted by transits and other people, our chart never changes. And so that shows us the foundation of who we are energetically from an energetic perspective. And we can go deeper into other aspects of self, but just from the energetic lens, it shows us foundationally who we are. And then we can look at all these other things and say, oh, okay, now I understand how I've been adapting myself. And then you get to be in choice. Do I want to stay in that adaptation or do I want to work with that adaptation to decondition it?
Mhm.
That is, I love that. And it makes so much sense.
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
keep saying that. Like every time you guys, it's like a whole new insight for me, a whole new way of looking at it. And that's really why I wanted to have this conversation because I've been in like the leadership trainings where we've done the MBTI, and I did recognize that there was one. I had just become a manager for the first time, and mine had changed.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
realized I was like, I thought they said that these don't change.
Right.
But it was very slight because they gave you percentages. Well, not really percentages, but they gave you like a range. Mine had went over to the other. So for the Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFJ. I
Mhm.
had been a manager maybe a couple months. I had just gone over to INFP just by like 1 point.
Right.
And
So
I
I
was
have the
like,
same exact one. Yeah.
I did too. Same.
it's funny. They say INFJs are the most rare, but the people that I seem to find the most often are INFJs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we just
Right.
attract each other.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
We can
Just
see each other.
intuitively, right? Mhm.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it's really interesting because DISC actually no, with the Myers-Briggs, it was either that one or DISC, where it was the first time somebody told me I was an introvert. I was like, I'm not an introvert. It's
Mhm.
like I'm fine once I get to know the person. I'm just and then I was like, oh, that's what an introvert is.
Well, and it's an energetic state of being, right? It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
you don't, and that's so we looked at your chart earlier. That's your
Hmm.
line two,
Yeah.
right? That place of energetically, what do I need to support myself so that I can be in alignment?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's and the thing is, growing up, and I don't know if that was just like a generational thing, but I feel like growing up, they always just made it seem like, I was shy, so I was like forcing myself to be more extroverted. And like it's not that I can't do it. I just have to think about it and be like, okay, I'm actively looking for this. But what I realize is I love being an introvert. I love
Mhm.
knowing that I'm acknowledging who I am, and the more I learn about, and I do love doing the personality test. I love looking at all of these different
Right.
things. And I'm also the type of person that if something doesn't feel aligned, I just ignore it and only stick with the things that work for me. So I don't know how well that actually works out, but for me, I feel good about it. So
I think you do. I think you do. It was like me with human design. 15 years ago, I was like, I can't be with it, right? Like I didn't like it, but really, it was telling me something that I didn't want to go
yeah.
deeper into, right? And now I was, and then the last 5 years, I've been ready for it. So, yeah.
And I just saw somebody over in the chat said they also are an INFJ and a reflector. So
Yes.
welcome.
Yes. Yes. See, we're all
You're
here.
right at home.
So, and it's funny when I first found out, oh, it's been so long since I did the first one. And I remember looking as like the ideal, careers for an INFJ. And one of them was like a counselor or a
Mhm.
therapist. I was like, I don't want to be a counselor. I don't want to do. And then I'm like, oh, and I look back
Oh,
once
I
I
should be a
decided to become a
librarian. That was
coach.
my top choice. Yes, I hear you. I
I'm
hear
like,
you.
that's not what I want. And then I was like, oh, once I decided to become a coach, I was like, and then I went back and I looked, I was like, oh, damn it. It was right.
And it's this that's the journey that we take, right?
Yeah.
And that's what
Mhm.
I think is also so cool about any of these systems, particularly what I love about human design is that we can see our growth, right? As Laura was saying, starting with human design and then
Mhm.
moving to that quantum space and how do we move towards quantum consciousness and collective consciousness and moving ourselves even further down that evolutionary path.
Mhm.
Um, on our own path, which is so cool because it's like it's
Right,
a
and it's not
system,
that not like somebody else's path, right?
right? Yeah, it's a system that teaches you your path,
Mhm.
which is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do want to share my chart just so we can show everybody what it looks like because to me honestly, when I the first time I saw it, I was just like, I have no idea what this is. Just tell me who I am
Mhm.
and what I need to know.
Yep, yep.
Yep,
So,
That's what most people feel like when they look at it,
right. I was like,
right?
"Oh, same thing."
Yeah, too
so
many
but
numbers, too many words.
yeah, I was like,
Just you
that's
pull
that's
out
a
the bigger
lot.
pieces. Yeah, yeah.
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 You start with certain things. Yeah.
So let
If you
me
want to share it, we can start to show people kind of what those higher things are.
yes. Let's see. Let me get that pulled up. All right, I just had it.
And I just want to make sure
Oh,
we
there
don't
we go.
get too buried in the
Yeah,
Yeah.
chart,
in the
because
grain.
it's so easy to go there forever. And I do want to make sure we get to the, you know, stress tech, what's helping with prevent
Yes.
burnout and exhaustion and stuff. I'm
Exactly.
just, you can do what you want, obviously, it's your call, but I just want to make sure
But yeah,
I know
we're
we can go
definitely
deep with all of this.
definitely going to talk about that. So this is an example of what a human design chart looks like. To me, it looks
Yeah, it
very
it's a lot. It's a lot. And so if you pull up your design and you're looking and you're going, what are those numbers? What are those symbols? What are those arrows? What did all these words mean? The way that I first looked at mine, and this is honestly to this day how I first share a chart with any of my clients, is I say, look at just so the information that I'm going to give you on how to quote unquote decode your map is to look at the centers that are either what you can use one or two words, open or undefined. Those are the ones that are in white, and the centers are the triangles and the squares and the diamonds that are inside all those lines. You look at the centers that have white in them; those are where you have inconsistent energy. That is where you receive the most external conditioning, and where your shadows very often show up. When you look at the ones that are colored in, so in Tamika's, they're beautiful purple and pink and yellowy orange. Those colored in are where you have consistent energy. Those are where your deepest internal existing wisdom occurs. And I paused there because in our lifetime, our actual deepest wisdom comes from those open ones. But this is what we're born into the world with, are those defined centers. And so just looking at it, and then you have channels, but you don't need to worry about those. Those are the lines that connect them. Just looking at it, how do you feel energetically in looking at your own map? And so, Tamika, we kind of asked you that before we started. When you look at yours, what do you feel?
For me, actually, I've had a few thoughts about this. I definitely feel this. We did mention about this part being more open, and I'd like to, pull in all of the information, and then down here is where I take the time to really digest it, because that was my question. What does the digestion mean? But now I'm also wondering, so this is more of a it, this is more of a question that I think some women can ask depending on your age. So, with my age right now, I am in the early stages of perimenopause. One of the things I'm wondering, and this is based on a conversation that I've had with my sister in law who experiences hot flashes differently from me. So, I'm wondering if these show, like where all of these are colored in, if these would show more of where that energy is coming from, because this is more where I'm feeling it. So do any of these relate to what you would feel physically in your body at any given time? Or is this more of how you operate, like throughout your day?
Well, I mean, I think our body is always giving us information, right? And so our body is always telling us, and for everybody that is experienced a little bit different. So I think it's right that you're each listening to your own individual bodies, because it's just like these charts are very different. Our bodies tell us information in different ways, right? And we're more aware of certain parts of our bodies. Like you might be more defined, in the lower, and so you're going to naturally get more lower information, right, in the lower parts of your body. I'm defined in my heart and my throat, and everything's in my throat. you know, Everything, all the signs and symptoms show up: heart, throat, all of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And Kim, I know you're into somatics, so you're.
Yeah, and it is, I feel it is a map that allows us to understand where we are more prone.
Hmm.
The difference is some of us will be more prone in our open, and some of us will be more prone in our defined. So understanding what's true for you
Okay.
means spending time with it and saying, "Oh, I do notice that I'm having more symptoms that are kind of heart center and below, or I'm having more symptoms that are throat and above." And so knowing that about yourself, then you can understand whether those symptoms are showing up in your open centers or in your defined centers. Because it's different. It is different for everyone. So that's
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the map can give you clues if you're
Okay.
spending time with it.
Because all of it is available to all of us, right? And
Right.
it's really looking at where is that. The open centers allow you to take in the information, take in energy. And so it might be that's where that happens. I know we have a reflector on the line, on our chat here, and it's like, she's got all open on her chart. It's like we have all open centers for her. And
Uh,
so she is going to be taking in that information. So I think the biggest takeaway, if I could do anything today, would be like to practice listening to your body.
yeah,
Really
100%.
practice, like what happens when I go to this place? Do I consistently get this kind of information, or does it tell me to stay? Does it tell me to go? Paying attention, or with a certain person or an idea or a project. And so listening to your body, and the more you do that, the more it will tell you.
Yeah. We are all creatures of the environment that we are
Yeah.
in. We are all impacted by the environment that we are in. And the more we are, I mean, on the flip side, if you have a chart that is completely defined, every center is defined, it doesn't mean that you're not taking in information, because you don't
Mm,
have all 64 gates defined. None of us will have all 64 gates defined. And so there are centers that are open, but there are also what the smaller circles on the chart are called gates.
okay.
So everybody has some openness, everybody has some definition. And so it just, for each of us, again, I'm going to echo exactly what Laura said. It's our body. And the reason why I love looking at the body graph, for that energetic perspective, is to honor what's happening in our bodies
Hmm,
and to get those clues as to what is our body, where is our body giving us information, what information is it giving us.
hmm. Okay, so thinking about this, I'm trying to think because I feel like I listen more here, but I'm trying to listen more here. I'm trying to get to the point where I listen more here. But I feel like I try to do this first. Like this is it's probably just a habit. It probably is conditioning where I try to do everything up here first, but I am trying to get to a point where I take it from here, give myself all of the time that I need. I am getting better, but and then bringing it back up here.
Yeah. And again, to echo what Laura had said, is right. Without the specifics of your chart, it is, how do we filter in information,
Hmm.
and how do we listen to our body about the information that has filtered in.
And I
So
think
it's
a lot of us, are conditioned that it needs to start up here first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in a certain way, right, where we're actually more in the I got to have the answer versus tapping more into that intuitive place. And so it's like a lot of us live from our necks up. That's what we learned, and so to go down into our bodies and really have that share information. I mean, that's a practice, right? These are all practices that we
Yep.
yeah,
but they're so much more available when we do that.
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so looking at this, I'm going to close this down now because it does take me to the question about how we feel burnout and
Mm-hmm.
how we can understand when it's time for us to make that change in what we're doing. So for me, I notice when I'm really starting to feel burnout, I feel a lot of pressure in my head. That's where I notice it the most. And I feel like sometimes that's my body's way of getting my attention because that's generally one of the first things that'll say, okay, I need to stop. Whatever I'm doing, I need to stop. But I also feel a lot of pressure, like, like in my heart chakra area. And I see on my chart, both of them, if I remember correctly, with the two triangles, both of them are open. So, but as a generator, does it make a difference where for me, because I'm a generator, that's how I would feel it, where I feel it physically and then I need to stop and take a step back? Or is it just individual?
Well, I want to take it back to the not self, the misaligned place, right? How are you experiencing the frustration? Are you experiencing the frustration cognitively, right? Through your head, through your mind, trying
Mhm.
to filter through in your design that makes
Yeah.
sense looking at it, because you're not accessing your wisdom, which is in your sacral,
Okay.
right? It's in your spleen, which is an information center. It's an awareness center. It's in your solar plexus, which is going to give you that emotional information as well. But if you can't access those because those are body-based awareness and you're trying to cognate your way through, which again is a lot of
Mm,
conditioning, you're going to get trapped in the cycle, which therefore is what causes burnout. And because you're saying, what you end up doing is saying yes to misaligned things because you cannot hear the wisdom of your body.
so is that where the overthinking comes from?
Where the overthinking comes from, it comes from two places. In your particular design, it comes from your open centers. It also comes from how we have been systemically conditioned to live in a society uh, prefers thinking over feeling,
Mhm.
and the misconception that a feeling, that an emotion, that a sensation in our body is not knowledge, is what has been driven into our minds and into our beings for millennia.
Yeah.
I won't be on that soapbox for too long.
I know. I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Especially for women, and
Yes.
especially for those INFJs, like you're highly intuitive, high feelers. Um,
Yeah.
it was dangerous to speak out. It still is dangerous to speak out in many ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we just got a comment. As an
Mm,
INFJ, my comfort zone is doing it all alone. Yes. And as a reflector, I learned the need to be surrounded by people with good energy has helped me understand how to flip behaviors to avoid burnout.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, and as a reflector, it's not that you have inconsistent energy, it's that you don't have the consistent energy center. You do have consistent energy. It's accessing it is different than using centers as that center point to access it. So being with people is giving you that definition, more definition, to allow you to actually understand yourself and hear yourself. So beautiful adjustment there.
Yeah. And with the right people, right? The right
Yeah.
people that are in alignment with who you are and how you want to be in the world. Yeah. It's key for um, reflectors in particular, and somewhat projectors as well. I
Yes.
think a lot of
Absolutely.
us can feel that with people, right? In all different ways, but it's like a lifeline for reflectors.
Yeah, I would say for anybody, because I've actually seen many gens. I've actually seen every design that has like three or less centers that are defined. And when you
Yeah.
have so much open, it is so much more important. Even those of us that have more, I have 5 centers defined. Even those of us who have more, we need to be in alignment with the right people, or in the environments with the right people. Because if
Yeah.
we're with the wrong people, then that's triggering our shadow and reconditioning the conditioning that we're wanting to decondition.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think going forward in the world, it's like we're craving those communities
Hmm.
where we feel like we're with the right people, that can support us and understand things like being an INFJ and understand human design, right?
Yep.
Yes. So, what is one small shift that each energy type can make to reduce their daily depletion?
Mm.
Or even, well, no, I think most people have at least a little bit of depletion each day.
I think it just looks different for each type. I think that, like a manifester, because they are that catalyst, typically come up with these ideas that haven't been seen before. They do need also, when they're not in that creative spark, they need to have a really nourishing environment and have some downtime and to allow that for themselves. The generator has so much energy available, they need to make sure that they're actually running that energy during the day, or they might have trouble sleeping. So it's like whatever that looks like. I know I have a generator client. We did a reading and she's like, oh, I absolutely have to go to the gym every day and I've got to get on that treadmill to deplete some energy. So it might look like physical energy or it might look different for different types of generators. And then a manifesting generator, um, has that combination, but it can look, um, they need huge permission to be able to explore,
Mm.
and to be able to um, do the different things and see what's here and what's over here. And I say often that they zigzag their way to success because they just intuitively know, and they need to give themselves permission to be able to do that. I think it was a lot of permission giving. For projectors, we need a huge amount of rest, like actual physical body rest and rejuvenation. And so it's like, of course, I call myself joyful business because it's like going into that deep joy helps resuscitate, right? And allows me to actually step into my leadership. It's not always physically being in my leadership, in that way. Yeah. And then I think the calibrate or the reflectors are like that as well, where they need that right environment, right people. Like it's just essential that
Yeah.
they have that, and they need that rest, but differently than projectors. Manifestors tend to need lots of rest and downtime. And again, not to say that every woman doesn't need rest and downtime.
Yeah, it's what I was gonna yeah. I was
You
gonna say,
know?
that's just good just to know, even if you don't know your type, right? And
Yes.
or if your type doesn't resonate with you, because there are some people where it's like this just does not resonate with you, and that can happen, or human design doesn't resonate with you. I
Or
want
you're
to go
not
back
ready.
to the body.
I wasn't ready for it, 10 years ago.
Exactly. And so I want to go back to the body and just say, if you feel any of those things, if you feel frustration or anger or disappointment or bitterness, allow yourself that space to step out, to give yourself a pause. Does your body need to move? Does your body need rest? Do you need to be with people? Do you need to be alone? All of that is reflected in your chart 100%. And
Yes.
if you don't know your chart, if you don't want to look at your chart, just feel those feelings. Notice that they are there. Pause, honor what is coming up for you next. That's like the baseline. I think that if all of us did, we would see a lot more people that weren't feeling the type of depletion. Now, caveat, when the collective is depleted, we're all feeling depleted no matter what.
Yeah. Yes.
So the more of us that can work on replenishing ourselves in this time allows us to actually impact the collective long term. It may not feel like it right now, but it's really, really true and really, really important that we are replenishing and nourishing ourselves as needed.
Yeah, love
Yes.
that reminder.
Sometimes that's the most important thing you can do. And that's not what we were trained to do.
Mhm.
That wasn't rewarded when I went through college and was in corporate, and or even, the way my dad speaks to me is like, well, are you working hard? And no, we can't go to lunch on a Friday because you need to be working and making money. And it's like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
it takes a huge amount of permission, self permission, to be able to say this really matters and makes a difference.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of that, I really want to stress that you're going to have people in your life who don't understand that and who aren't ready to acknowledge that for themselves, or maybe they feel like they don't need to acknowledge that for themselves. What I always tell people is you don't always have to share your journey or your path with everybody who's in your life. If you know that somebody is going to fight with you about what you're saying about needing extra time, don't share that with them. Just let them know when you're available, and then you guys can go from there. It's not every part of our journey that's meant to be shared with everybody who's, with us. So just keep that in mind because there are people that will discourage you sometimes. So just stick with the people that don't. That's you have that ability. That's your right to determine who you're going to allow into your energy and into your space, no matter what you're doing. So, and even if you're at work, there's still ways to limit how much you interact with people who are not going to respect the space and energy that you have.
Mhm.
So, okay, so we are coming to the top of the hour. If each person that's watching this, if they go in and they get their chart, and I can't remember the name of the company, but I'll put the link to the company where you can get a free human design chart in the comments. If they get their chart, what is one thing that they should take away from their chart? If they look at anything, even if it's just looking at their type and maybe understanding what their type is, what's the one most important thing they should take away from it?
From my
Okay.
point, yeah, thank you. From my point of view, it is take the most important thing to you. So when you look at it, what are you drawn to? Are you drawn to the drawing? Are you drawn to the map? Are you drawn to the words, some of the words that are underneath? I mean, Tamika, you asked us about something that most people never ask about. You asked about digestion. Like, what are you drawn to? And then reach out to someone like Laura or myself. Do a little bit of research. There are some reputable websites. There's a whole lot of stuff out there that will also send you down rabbit holes that you probably don't need to go down. So I know you can go to Laura's site, you can come to my site, and we're happy to help you kind of figure your way through, but find what interests you, what you're attracted to. And if you open it up and you have Laura's initial response, which is like, no, that's okay too. Like, I want to give you permission to also say, I'm not ready, or this isn't resonating. And
Yeah.
that's okay too.
And that's part of stepping into your own self authority,
Yeah.
right? What do you need right now? Yeah. And if I were to point somebody, I would say, as you get your chart, you'll see what your emotional, kind of your low emotion, high emotion. I look at those as clues.
Mhm.
And in leadership energetics, I'm always talking about um, checking in with your emotions, and what is going on in your body. And it's like, if you're feeling that anger or frustration, disappointment, bitterness, it's a clue, right? You don't have to make it wrong or bad. It's just, okay, it's a clue that something's out of alignment. Is it with me? Is it with the work? Is it with, I'm not
Mhm.
resting, whatever the different things are, but to really get curious from there.
Okay, that I haven't done yet, so that I'll have to look into.
Yeah.
So,
That's your frustration, right? Your frustration.
Yeah. Just know that
And then
yours is frustration. Hoping for, yeah,
yeah, and where do you
yeah,
find the flip side is the high emotion is that deep sense of satisfaction. Where
exactly.
do you really feel that deep sense of satisfaction? So those are good clues that'll guide
mm,
you.
okay, I'll have to look at that. Yeah, it's funny because I realize so for the strengths finder, my number one strength is I think it's like connectedness or something. So I'm always looking for a connection from one thing
Mhm.
to the next. So I'm sure I'll
Yeah,
I'll have a million questions once I start diving into my into my chart. Like you said,
for
it'll be a
sure. I
rabbit
have that
hole.
connectedness too. Yeah. I was in a group one time and there was 40 of us and I think 38 of us had connectedness. That's like why we were all there,
Wow.
right? To see what was how
Wow.
we connect the dots to everything. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So interesting, the things that we can, when you sit down and take the time to do the different tests that are out there, what you find out
Mhm.
about yourself. So, thank you everyone who joined us today for this really exciting, really informational balance success conversation. This was one where I think this is the first time where we're bringing well, I won't say a completely new concept, but I think a concept where it's not as mainstream as just self care and burnout. So I hope you're leaving with at least one insight, one perspective shift, or one small action that feels doable and supportive for whatever season you're in. And of course, a huge thank you to both Kim and Laura for joining me today with this absolutely amazing information. So remember, conversations are really only possible because of all of these like amazing women that I've been reaching out to. There's so many women out here that are doing such wonderful work in the world, and this is one place where we can all get together and learn from each other and share this wisdom and make sure that everybody has what they need. So, if today's discussion resonated with you, then I want to invite you to stay connected. You can watch the replays of our past panels and you can sign up for the future ones. So, join me on my YouTube channel, Balance Success with Tamika Leon, and be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an upcoming discussion. Thank you again for being here, for prioritizing your well being, and for choosing to be a part of a community that believes in success, success that feels good and not overwhelming. And always remember to take care of yourself, and I'll see you in our next conversation.